Okay, so I did actually bother looking at the Urban Renaissance report, and the delivery section, the first page states, unless we can take private sector developers and investors with us, any urban vision will remain just that, an impressive concept with little prospect. It then sets out some key approaches to funding that delivery. In the centre, you've got our model for the development corporation. So we're a local authority adjacent development corporation, so we sit alongside the local authorities, although we are funded directly by MHCLG, and we have 4 key levers that we use. We are the planning determining authority, but we're not the local plan authority. We use the 2 neighbouring boroughs of Dartford and Gratian as local plans. We can invest in other people's projects. We can do direct development ourselves, and influence is a really critical part, particularly because we didn't own any land at the start of the project, and we need to rely on that level of influence to really make a difference. We now have an investment programme that covers these 6 key areas: utilities, sustainable travel, parks and public realm, housing and neighbourhoods, community buildings, and placemaking that Kevin has talked extensively around.
Thanks.
And in order to help deliver that investment programme, we have a design management system. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with a lot of these actions, but in terms of the role that my small team do, we work to appoint the best design teams and promote co-design with the local community. We provide a range of local design guidance. We facilitate design reviews, so we have design advisors in the pre-app process, but we also have our own design forum, which is a design forum, design review panel. And we do a lot of quantitative evaluation of design performance and then disseminate it back. So in terms of evaluation of design performance, this is really critical. We do a lot of work on generating data to show the kind of impact we're having and where there's issues in terms of design quality. We use Building for a Healthy Life. We talked a lot yesterday about the different mechanisms and structures that you can use to assess design. We currently use Building for a Healthy Life, and we use Building with Nature for our parks and open spaces. We have we use our guidance as codes, so we've translated them into codes, and we assess all planning applications against codes. And the real game changer has been the fact that through working with the planning team and the head of planning, we've agreed that we will only recommend for approval a scheme that achieves 9 or more greens and no reds on the Building for Healthy Life. So that gives my team real power in the planning process, because we can hold up a scheme if it doesn't meet the criteria. The diagram on the right shows year on year the Building for Healthy Life assessments, and you can see how the reds disappear from 2018 at the bottom up to 2021, 2020, 2021, where there's no reds, but it helps us to understand where there's still ongoing design issues, and we report this back to the board on an annual basis. So I'm now just going to go through a few projects just to give you an idea of what we're doing on the ground, how we're delivering, and how we're using design management. So first of all, around sustainable travel. One of the key problems was around how we integrate sustainable travel into the streets. We spent 2 years working with the Highways Authority to develop a range of street typologies. So the street typology on the left-hand side is our Fastrack, our bus street type. So this is actually a segregated bus route, and then you can see the cycle track and the footpath. It took 2 years because we talked yesterday about highways authorities still using DB32 and not even moving on to manual for streets, and we had to do a lot of work to kind of bring them with us on some new approaches, and I'll come on to that in a second. We also spent a lot of time developing the cycle network, which is the diagram in the middle, and then on the right-hand side, the brand new fast-track buses that will start running in November of this year. So it's a bus, but that self-identifies as a tram, as you can probably tell. It's an electric bus, so it's a fully electric fleet, and with that comes a whole range of charging infrastructure for buses that we've ended up funding. So EDC has been funding the bus, enhancing the bus fleet, as well as other infrastructure around that. And in terms of those street typologies, so on the left-hand side, that is Castle Hill. That's the first village developed in the Garden City. You can see, and this predates, I'm pleased to tell you, it doesn't come after our design guidance, it predates the introduction of our design guidance. Here you can see a classic primary distributor street, We weren't allowed to provide direct access from the streets. You end up these awful laneways on either side, so we end up with 4-lane road. Those laneways are not adopted, so they're a future liability for homeowners. No street trees, or barely any. On the right-hand side, after introducing the new street coding, you can see we managed to negotiate permission for direct access from a primary distributor. We were able to use that space that we took away from 4 lanes to 2 lanes and give it back to the street trees. We talked a bit about adoption this morning. The only way we could get the Highways Authority to agree and improve quality of public realm and planting was to actually leave the verges out of the adopted highways. So the highway, the carriageway and the footpath are adopted, the verges aren't. They sit in the management company, and I'll come on to that in a second. In terms of parks and public realm, we've worked hard to develop co-design processes. This is our Ebbsfleet Young Persons Design Group that we co-funded. We attracted funding from the Arts Council to fund this. They meet on a weekly basis. We pay them in pizza, but we also provide training for working with some of our designers that are working in the Garden City to give them the design skills and then use them to engage on our projects. And we're developing a hierarchy of parks. So when we took over and looked at the master planning, the parks are all of a similar scale and similar kinds of facilities. So we've introduced a hierarchy of 4 different types of park. We talked a bit about city parks, and then we have local parks. So every village has a local park where you can host events where the whole community can attend. And then we have neighbourhood parks. The ambition is that there's a neighbourhood park within 5 minutes of every single home, or thereabouts, 97% of neighbourhood parks. Then finally, we've introduced pocket parks. This is an example from Ashmere, pocket park within the residential streets. Ebbsfleet Central, car parking, we talked about a minute ago. So every square metre of developable land in our city centre is currently a surface car park, 5,000 spaces. In order to develop, we have to lift those up into multi-storey car parks and integrate them into the built form. So how do you do that and create a viable, sustainable local centre? This is the process we've been on, the implementation framework 2016, the outline master plan that was just consented but took 4 years, and now we've been working for the last 12 months already on the area master plan design coding, and at the same stage we are working on the first phase to deliver a huge piece of the infrastructure, the enabling infrastructure. So the kind of things we're thinking about at the moment, other than the things you'd expect, what uses and activities, we're really interested in distinctiveness and character, and how can we do something in Ebbsfleet that belongs to Kent and doesn't just feel like another part of London sitting on the North Kent coast. And then my final set of slides, community buildings. So Kevin alluded to the fact that the community feel that we haven't kept up pace in terms of providing those community buildings. All of these slides I'm going to show now in the next 4 or 5 are projects that are now on site, I'm pleased to say. This is the secondary school, Alcadon Secondary School, opening in 2026. We've got the sports hall opening in 2026 as well. We've got the primary school. This will be the 4th primary school we deliver. So actually we have managed to keep up in terms of primary school provision. So we delivered 3 already. There's another one underway before this one. That'll be the 4th. So this will be the 5th primary school delivered in the Garden City. Hopefully you can see a Kentish agricultural vernacular coming through there, and an abstract oast house roof perched up on top. The new sports hall in Weldon, creating a new community hub. So all these projects EDC is invested in to enhance the standard Section 106 contribution. So we were going to, if we hadn't have invested, we'd have got the standard couple hundred square metre hall where you might be able to run a children's birthday party, but not a lot else. Again, we looked at introducing a hierarchy. We introduced 4 scales of community building, largest scale being around 4,000 square metres. This is a scale C, so around 2,000 square metres. And then we go right down to the smallest scale, scale A, which is a couple of hundred square metres. But this is all provision that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't stepped in and enhanced what was going to be provided as part of the Section 106. And then finally, the last community building, the Alcadon Hub. This is an example where the Section 106 is 20 years old. It was vastly out of date in terms of who was going to be in there and how they would manage those spaces. The county council didn't want to own and run all of the facilities that the developer was required to provide. The doctor's surgery, the health authority didn't want to own. They wanted one central facility in the city centre rather than having a distributed approach. So we've been able to step in, solve that issue, by using our trust that we're setting up as part of our stewardship strategy in order to run this new building, to provide the fit-out costs for the GP surgery, so we can have a GP surgery now rather than wait another 10 years, and then also kind of work out a management stewardship strategy to allow a library to go in, co-working spaces, a family hub, a sports hall, and a community hall and a theatre, small theatre. So that's the kind of work we're doing, solving those problems on a local basis. And then my last slide, that all-important one, the future, and how is all this going to be managed and maintained. So we talked, for example, about pulling the verges out of the adoption of the Highways Authority. And so when we did that, we were able to talk to the Garden City Trust that's been set up in order to kind of explain to them what the implications of that would be, with the idea that ultimately all the management companies sitting in Ebbsfleet at the moment will come into the ownership of the Garden City Trust. It'll be one stewardship vehicle that will manage all of the public realm, the parks, the open spaces, and the community buildings. And it solves a lot of those issues that we've talked about over the last couple of days around the long-term stewardship and management of the Garden City's key community spaces going forwards.
Just to say that this charitable trust we've set up is probably the most ambitious stewardship body set up since the Letchworth Foundation 100 years ago. We're trying to make sure that the buildings that we deliver for it will have an opportunity to create income so that it has a sustainable legacy moving forward. All of our community buildings will be BREEAM outstanding. All the green spaces will have a management strategy before we move in place. We talked earlier on about the privatisation of public realm. This is the way around it. Otherwise, the entire Garden City would be service charged. Every community would be service charged. There would be competition between sites. This is a way that we can have one genuine place and bring us as close as possible to the Garden City principles of community ownership of assets, because the Garden City Trust will be managed by the community in the future. And that's it from us. Thank you.